Good evening, Razorback fans. One the only Hawg Talk podcast coming to you live from the Sterling Stove and Roastery Studios. We're part of the Believe and Buzz radio networks, where you can hear us on all podcast platforms, as well as Buzz to 106.7 in Central Arkansas. So please like and rate, review our podcasts, and all live shows are presented to you by Arkansas Brewing Company in Ozark, Arkansas. I am your host, Porter Hayes, and our broadcast is brought to you by Bet Online, which remains your number one source for all things this season. The fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports, from football, basketball to college baseball. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers we have in 2023. And do not forget to use our promo code BLEAV to get started. Bet Online, where the game starts. And tonight we go to the Metters hotline and bring in Team Arkansas head coach Monty Patel. Monty, appreciate you joining on. It's always my favorite thing to watch during the summer. I know y'all didn't have a team in COVID, but I'll tell you what, COVID TBT really sparked the growth of this tournament, and I think we're reaping the benefits of the tournament. And now you're taking over the head coaching duties, and I believe your second year, full year of doing it. What's this shape, this like, prepping a team? I mean, let's just start from the beginning. For those who don't know what Team Arkansas is, TBT tournament is, just talk about what it takes to get a roster going, get into the tournament, and then, of course, get to your destination.
And I think the biggest thing was players, connections, relationships with people. I even tell our high school kids it matters how much and how well you treat people in life, because you never know when that comes back. And for me, it just went so much 6 degrees of separation. How can I get this guy's number to talk to him about playing, and this guy's number to talk to him about playing, or this guy's agent talk to them about letting their player play? And so just over time, you just kind of learn tricks of the trade. We built a great staff that has connections throughout. That's from the Division I, Division II to going into the NBA now. And so just the amount of connections we do have, we're fortunate to start getting phone numbers and having good, easy conversation with guys about here's what we are, here's what we're doing, here's how we want to do it, and we're going to do everything the right way. So for us, like, that experience teaches us.
And then, of course, what I love about the TBT is, one, they have teams that are developed around causes. ALS, sideline cancer. They had one, Autism Army. I don't believe that they're in this year. I hadn't seen them. But there's a lot, and then they have alumni teams. And how much fun is it, the fact that, you get to bring in a team of Arkansas guys, together that they might have played with each other in college, might not have, but they always come back together. And this year's roster is full of Arkansas guys, and we can't even stop to mention without the addition to Sonny Weems finally deciding to play. And I think that he got a little slack from last year, but I think he made it pretty clear that he is going to play this year. And just what does that mean for this team, just with his, being such a veteran, playing overseas for so long? What does a guy like Sonny Weems bring to your team?
Winning mentality. He's always been a winner, from his UAFS days to even taking Arkansas to the elite, or to the NCAA tournament, playing, beating Eric Gordon's team. If I'm not mistaken, it's Indiana. They beat them, lost to UNC the next round. Very decorated, very winner, very does stuff the right ways, has a very good plan in life, and he's a very high level thinker, and so it's just appreciated to have that. Like, he's one of the first ones to tell you he was not anywhere without good coaches in his life, helping him along the way, and good people. So he treats people kind. He's a very fair person. So just makes it so much easier to be around a guy like him, who's had his NBA career, now playing overseas in China, for these guys to also talk to and look at as a veteran leader. Like, you've done it, so what do I got to do to get to your level? But also, he's so humble about everything he does. That just makes it way more easy to be around.
And another thing that I've noticed is a lot of these guys that are in TBT play overseas ball. And I'll tell you, if there's one attribute that comes the most important when it comes to playing in such a tournament like this, those guys from overseas know what it's like, one, to play in hostile environments. They know what it's like to bang and battle. And I got to go to your tournament the year before last, so in Wichita. And seeing it in person and seeing grown, this is not like the NBA deal. This is grown men playing for a share of $1 million. And you can tell that it's almost like, I could put it in layman's terms to the casual basketball fan. It's like a game of 21 and the score is always 2019. It's always there at the end because it's a battle from start to finish. John, I mean, it's competitive, indoor kind of Rucker League kind of deal, but I love it. And having those overseas guys, just, I think that's the perfect fit for this tournament because you're talking about knowing what it's like to play in a tournament setting like this and play for money. These guys are doing it overseas in different countries.
And the experience those guys get, I mean, some of these guys play in the NBA, went overseas, liked it, ended up not getting an opportunity to go back. Some of them chose to stay. They all have their different experiences and the rhyme and reason for what they do. But the level of talent there is awesome. It's right now, even in the Wichita region, there's 16 teams there. This is like a big, like a professional AAU tournament, and just with a big bag at the end. But it's so much fun to just see all these guys play, guys that you might have seen in college play or you might have seen in the pros, G League. You're watching tape of them now. So that just makes it so much more fun of a tournament.
Yeah, and we're looking at the bracket right now. You see that you're matched up. Your first game is against Ram Up, which is another alumni team from Colorado State. And you look down below, and the winner game, you playing against a team or could possibly be playing against the team that you opened up with last year. And the guys out of St. Louis. And what was funny to me was how much talking those guys did. And the guys that were talking, none of them played. I mean, the guys that you see on the YouTube channel, none of them got any kind of run. So it was kind of funny. You watch them, and I know it's all for fun and show on the YouTube and stuff like that, and they do a great job. But I was expecting more of them to play. And when I seen that, one of them got maybe a couple of minutes. I was very surprised to see that. But if you do advance against Ram Up, you'll play the winner of I believe the Kansas State, Purple and Black's Kansas State, correct? Kansas State and the guys. So you have a potential of going up against two alumni teams and one that you have already played before. But that's another aspect of the tournament is some of these teams you might have played last year, but it could be a completely different roster. So, and that's what I want to lead into the next thing that you can, explain about the tournament is the lack of preparation that you have. You probably have like 1 or 2 weeks with these guys, and then you go and play in these tournaments, and then you're trying to figure out who these teams have, what they're about without knowing anything about that team.
I mean, for us, we feel pretty prepared in terms of all these guys are professionals in these tournaments. They don't get to practice all that long throughout the whole tournament. Some of these guys know each other really well. Like the Buffalo team, they kind of had some continuity from what they ran in college, so they could kind of get back into it a lot quicker. We're taking guys from a bunch of different eras of Arkansas basketball versus then some friends. So we get 3 days together to put in what we need to put in, but we have to also realize these guys are professional. They've done this for a long time. They know how to play basketball. They just need to be in an organized setting to know where people are going to be and how to make their reads. I mean, basketball is a simple game that I think a lot of people have made harder over time. But at the end of the day, it's like, hey, we prepare personnel-wise and who we don't want beating us. We want to try to let the third or fourth option go for 20 on us, not the first or second option who we think will be that first or second option based off of the careers they have overseas. I mean, even last year, the guys team, people said that, hey, we should beat them 10-15. They had pros playing. They're out there for their brand. They had pros playing. They were really good. And it came down to a last-second shot by Courtney to hit the three for the win. And, I mean, it was a one-possession game. So just during these games, anything can happen. You're still playing respectable professionals at every stop in that game, in every game. And so at the end of the day, you're just hoping for personnel. Then you start kind of figuring out by halftime about what your identity really is as a team. You'll see some stuff in practice, but up until a game where you're really critical of everything, that's where you start figuring out who you are.
Yeah, and we're looking at your roster, and the only one I didn't get the team tracker doesn't have your latest edition, but you're looking at Courtney Forson, Adro Bailey, Jabril Durham, Jimmy Went, Hunter Mickelson. I mean, all those Arkansas guys. and then you throw in Willie Warren, Sean Doss. Now, Willie Warren, we've heard that name before, and Nick King. So go into those guys, Nick King, Sean Doss Jr., Willie Warren, and then I think your latest addition, don't let me forget his name, slipping
Brandon Wood.
Brandon Wood. Talk about those guys and where they're kind of from and how they're going to fit this year's roster.
Nick's from Memphis, and he played at Middle Tennessee. He was with the Windy City Bulls. Sean Doss actually played for me in high school at Marion. This is how I know I'm getting a lot older. So he played for me, and now he just signed his first professional contract officially today. Willie Warren, obviously, Oklahoma guy, played against us, played against Courtney's team, actually. He came and gave Arkansas 35. We walked away with the win that year under Pelfrey. And then Brandon Wood, we had met a little bit last year in passing at the tournament. He was on the Valparaiso team, if I'm not mistaken. And he's coming from an Australia league that's really good. Their team didn't make it, the team he signed up for on TBT, so he kind of ended up a free agent. But he had won the three-point contest at TBT. And we just reached out, and the conversation was easy. But he had watched us play and thought, man, they're really well organized and things like that. That kind of said, hey, this is an easy decision. I want to play, and y'all are going to be a good team. So it's just kind of, again, 6 degrees of separation, getting phone numbers, and just figuring out who fits our roster. That's the biggest thing, is we want to make sure every lineup that we put out can match up to anyone else, and that we have a lot of versatility options, which I think we've done a really good job at. We probably one guy away that we're still about to add here in the next 2-3 days, and then our roster is set. But I mean, it's exciting to put together. It's exciting to see some of these guys. We're a little more veteran, but we still have some young legs on our team that can also play. So it'll be a good balance for us.
And going into that, this is, I think I said beforehand, this was your second year, but this is your third year coaching. I was at Wichita with y'all the year before, then you played in Omaha. What have you really learned? I mean, your last two that you're going to carry over into this season of putting this team together, and now you've got two of these tournaments underneath your belt. How much is that going to prepare you for this year's tournament going into, if not one of the most electrifying, and you were talking about venues in TBT, you're going to be going to the Wichita region. And if anybody, I would compare it honestly to Bud Walton Arena. I mean, just watching when the game after y'all's, when y'all lost against ALS, and it was the Omaha team playing Wichita, the Aftershocks, that arena was packed. It was loud. And honestly, it was almost like Arkansas was playing Kentucky in Bud Walton Arena.
They sold it out. They love it. They love having TBT there. They found a second region to even host there. So they're hosting a 16-team tournament in one venue. So they packed it out. They've done a great job over there promoting that. People love it over there. The locals love it. But hotels know TBT's coming now. So they've done a really good job in Wichita of getting all that together. But I mean, from a learning perspective, every year you're going to learn stuff. The first year I was just more figuring out, how to put a roster together, how to find guys, how to manage the roster, how to, use our assistant coaches at this level. And we were more on the quick. I got asked to do that job in March or in April, right before the Final Four. So it was 3-4 months. The next year we had a year. Yeah, it was crazy. And so the next year we go into the tournament and we have a lot better of a plan of, what's going on, what we need, how do we build it, how do we fundraise the money to be able to do this, and, just figure out little stuff in games that we thought helped us and that we could take advantage of. We've been doing a little more research on what teams that have been winning have in common and trying to put a little bit of that in there as well. But we also can't get away from what we believe our identity is on this team. So you're always going to learn stuff in every game. And I've been very fortunate, and we had a great run last year and even the year before, where I've gotten to coach in 5 games of these, and we can watch the clips and we can watch the video and talk to other coaches that watched it to kind of just figure out, man, here's where we could have been better. Here's what we could have done here, to just keep trying to grow as coaches and as a team.
Yeah, and it looks like this year's roster, you've got a lot of guys that, like yourself, have a good amount of TBT experience that you didn't have in the beginning to work with. And I know with having Sonny at the helm of all that, with Courtney, I mean, he, there's another baller right there, having them two people along with Bailey Durham played with Team Arkansas in the earlier years.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, just having those guys in that we talking about veteran. I know it's hard to say they've only played a couple years, but I mean, in TBT terms, that's veterans. You know, they know what it's like to play, and especially playing in a environment like Wichita. I mean, let's go over your other teams in that bracket, and of course, we've just talked about the guys out of St. Louis. What are you looking forward, or have you had any chance to see what other teams have? Is it too early to speculate on these rosters, or are you still kind of wait until that they fill their rosters up as well?
Oh no, there's no look ahead for me. The only team I'm worried about right now is Rama. That's what we're all preparing for. We have our staff meeting starting tomorrow about how we're preparing for this 3 weeks ahead of time, to make sure we know what we want to do and how we want to do it. But you know, Ram Up is not someone to overlook for us by any means. They almost beat the LA Cheaters team last year, the Drew League team. They ended up losing that game by 5, 68-73, if I'm not mistaken. They had 4 guys above 6'9", 6'10". They're huge. And so us just figuring out, you know, how we're going to match up to those guys and how they're going to match up to us. One of us are going to end up dictating how the other team's playing, whether we're playing fast and the bigs can't get down or whether they're playing slow and we need more bigs. So we're just getting prepared for that. I mean, it's easy to start getting ahead, like, you know, for guys like myself, who I still find sometimes like, how am I in this situation to want to fill out an NCAA style bracket, right? But I don't want to look ahead at all. I mean, what we need to do is worry about that game. And luckily, when you have a staff that's as great as ours is, they can look ahead in terms of getting the scout ready, because the very next game we play back-to-back days. So if we do win, I just know we have the next game at 7:00 p.m. On that Friday. And so for us, it's just, hey, how do we get ready for this team? And then one of y'all assistants will have the next scout to be prepared on both teams. And plus, we'll get to watch the game too. And so we try to make the quick turnaround right after that if we are fortunate enough to win. And I've always been told to respect our opponent. And right now, Colorado State is all we're worried about.
And talk about your staff. You know, who are you bringing along with you this year? I know you had a very, very good staff last year. Just talk about those guys. Introduce your staff to the fans and the audience out there watching, and talk about what they bring to your team.
I mean, we got mostly the same crew back. Brock Witters at UCA, great resource, turned into a great friend, very good perspective in how to manage a basketball game, and helps a lot. He's really turned into my right-hand man in TBT. Carter Vance, he was on our early crew as well, and he does all the grinding out work of scouting and getting us prepared in terms of what I need to find on film, and he'll break it down and send it to me. And you know, we elevated him to the assistant GM, so he helps me a ton in terms of everything TBT. We have Dawson Yates at Harding, who's very selfless and does anything that needs to be asked. Doesn't matter time, day, whatever. It's, hey, Dawson, I might need you to go rebound. Hey, Dawson, I might need you to do this. And then he's selfless as could be. We have Coach Bandy. He actually is a skills trainer for in West Memphis, and has worked out Sonny and Nick King and Dawson. So very, very good at, you know, just individual training, such things like that. But then also, you know, he just took over a head high school job and won a state championship.
I was about to say,
I mean, he's a winner, and he approaches everything as a winner. He's a former professional, and that's just something that helps. And then we added AD Malhotra. He was on the Baylor team that had won the national championship and then elevated himself to the Suns front office role, but he'll be going back to a front office / coaching role this upcoming year with the Phoenix Suns. And we just thought that professional coach may help us in terms of recruiting, in terms of game strategy, in terms of anything. And he's just really going to be my left-hand guy. So I just have more help to make sure that we can get everything we need to get and then be clear and concise with the players on what we need done in those games. So again, just very fortunate through connections and relationships I've been just trying to make since I started in this business. And those guys helping out a ton is just more than I can ever ask for, especially for free. Like, this is that no one's getting paid in terms of the coaching staff unless we win the whole tournament. But otherwise, it's experience and getting better.
It's like going to a lawyer. You know, we don't get paid unless we win. You know, and that seriously, I mean, And I know that, there's some teams that have to throw some guys a bone to play on these teams. You get those upper echelon guys, and that's part of what that fundraising is, that's part of it. But if you want to win $1 million, it's almost like NIL money. You got to throw them a little bit to get them to play on your team. And, let's talk about that a little bit. You're talking about forming these rosters and getting guys to, one, that are playing overseas, giving up a couple of weeks of their time off. I mean, how hard is it to establish a roster that, one, this isn't just any team gets into this tournament. Y'all have really, paid your dues and won some games and earned your way back in the tournament. But just talk about the difficulties of trying to gather people to come play for this thing. And I want to be just honest, in a state where not many people are familiar with the tournament and don't know much about it, to be able to want to fundraise or invest in something that they're not too familiar with.
I mean, for us, the recruiting part, we figure out pretty quick. The players are the best recruiters. Talk to them about guys who they want to play with. Talk to guys they played with. Ask them about how they are in the locker room. Ask them those type of questions, and then they go out and recruit for you. That helps more than anything. I mean, you even take the Willie Warren conversation. I don't know Willie personally. I looked at his, stuff, just resume of where he played, and saw that him and Courtney may have overlapped over in China. And I said, "Hey, Courtney, how well do you know Willie?" He's like, "Really well." And then literally within 30 seconds, Willie was with us. And Courtney texted him and just said, "Hey, come play TBT with us." It was a done deal. Willie filled out the paperwork within 15 minutes, and that was it. So some of these guys are just, they know each other. They know what they want to play with and who they want to play with. And that makes it easy. I mean, I don't know if there was anyone on the roster that we actually had that wasn't through another player. And so that helped us a lot. So that part of it starts getting easier and easier. The more we do and the better we win and things like that, the more money we hopefully have. I mean, I would love to pay all of our guys. I would love to pay our staff, our players, our support staff. But right now, we just want to go over there to the tournament and break even in terms of hotels, travel, such things like that. And then after that, if $1 million comes your way, well, now you can probably fund TBT for a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. That, I mean, let's go to that. Like, all right, what would it mean to you in this squad? I mean, representing the state of Arkansas in this, because in the grand scheme of it, that's what you're doing. You're representing the state of Arkansas in this tournament, TBT tournament, that all games are on ESPN. I mean, just talk to, what would it mean to you to be the team at the end of it that's holding up that trophy and checking that Zelle? You're the one that they show and checking the phone when that money drops. What would it mean to you? And especially people like Sonny, Jabril, Courtney, people that Hunter, all these guys that have been there in and out from the beginning. What would it mean?
Honestly, I have no earthly idea. The thought of that anytime, like I've ever even thought about that, or just try to give myself some perspective, like you're really in a tournament for $1 million. What does that do? And I just end up getting chills. Like, how am I even here? Like, so many times people complain about what they don't have versus what they do have, and I've been trying to flip my mindset and look. I'm excited to do this. I'm not happy to lose any game by any means. I'm too competitive for that, but what can we do to keep winning? And then hopefully if that conversation comes, it's after we win the game. Because in my mind, it's just how do we get to the next one? How do we get one more? That's all. I'm not going to be overly greedy. Let me get one more. Then let me get one more. Let me get one more. Those start adding up. So honestly, perspective wise, no idea. Seems like a pipe dream. I mean, it's hard to win a tournament like that. 64 team, so much variance in that. Someone shoots it really well that they've never shot it that well. Someone doesn't shoot it very well that usually does. So it's just a matter of let's just take it one game at a time. Hope our defense holds up. Hope we're able to make some shots and close out the game. Because I mean, we were one shot away from not even getting past the first round last year to end up getting to the Sweet 16 side of it. So I just try to keep it as close to perspective as I can in terms of, hey, let's just do what we need to do to win the first one.
And another thing, I'm looking at the bracket. Your first game is on the 20th. I mean, this is almost like a NCAA tournament type of setting. You're playing 3 games in 3 days sometimes. I mean, where does that, we talk about bringing guys in and really keeping them the endurance and keeping them in shape, because, you know, you play on the 20, 22nd, 23rd if you win the region, and then you move on to the next round. You know, how much does that come into play of keeping these guys healthy and keeping these guys, you know, in shape and their endurance to, you know, when it comes to depth, I should say, in winning this tournament?
More often than not, because they're pros, they keep themselves in shape for stuff like this. What we figured out even after the first game of the first year we did this in Wichita, the game is almost the same time as a high school game. You might get an extra 5 minutes out of it. So it's not as long as an NCAA game, and it's not as long as an NBA game or a professional game overseas. So every possession will essentially matter in that versus, you know, a little more room for error in an NBA game where runs happen, runs happen, runs happen. You know, you might get one run in this, maybe two, and then after that, you're in the fourth quarter in Elon time. So we trust these guys to be pros. We trust the guys that we get off the bench to come be able to not, you know, to alleviate problems that were going on and just keep getting better and better and try to win.
And that was my next point, that Elam ending. I mean, talk about how crazy that is, how different that is from just a coaching aspect. You know, there's no time on the clock, and it's almost a game to 15 by ones and twos. You know, talk about, you know, how much fun it is playing in that type of ending. I mean, it always brings theatrics to the game-winning shots and stuff, and we always love those Elam endings. But from a coach's side of it, how nerve-wracking is it, and how does that go into playing in those final possessions because there's no time limit?
There's so much adrenaline to it, and then at the same time, you just keep trying to remind yourself, hey, you're the coach. You got to be calm, cool, collected about it. You got to keep the game plan going. And I mean, even the first year, telling us not to, you know, it was a 2-possession game. We don't have to get all 3 points right then and there because the other team still has to have the ball twice. So we can try to go get a layup and see if we get a free throw out of it. And we end up hitting the 3 to win. The second year, Courtney gets left open on a miscommunication and drills the 3 because pros are going to do what pros do. You can't leave them that wide open. And then even the second game, an offensive rebound comes off and Coffee comes through with the offensive rebound, lays it up, and we end up winning. So, I mean, the adrenaline is there, and you just try to take a deep breath and say, okay, what's next? And you have hope between you and your assistant coaches that everyone can keep perspective of what do we need to do in this Elam to win this game.
Yeah, and just the fact that, you know, it's always fun. You get to, I think, honestly, they're the ones that started the bracket where they always slap the name and move on. And you see that in other, you know, talk about like what you've seen firsthand in TBT that now is being brought into other. You see the Elam ending in other venues and other all-star games and stuff. You know, how much does people not realize that TBT has really affected how the marketing and the excitement carry over to other levels and other leagues?
I think people don't want the sports game to last an overly long amount of time. And the Elam ending kind of showed that, hey, this can still be fun. I know they brought it into the All-Star game. We've started seeing it in AAU and the high school and team camps. They're testing it in the G League, if I'm not mistaken. So it's starting to kind of pick up more and more. But, I mean, it's fun because every game ends on a game winner, right? And that's the fun part. It's no different than a pickup game. Someone has to hit the game-winning shot, regardless of how close or how much the score discrepancy is. And so just, you know, that makes the game fun. It's not fun. I mean, it is fun if you're on the winning side of winning a game by 30 by all means and clock runs out. But still having a game winner, even if you're up 30 on somebody and then getting to hit a game winner is still exciting.
Yeah. And let's talk about, you know, one, you know, we've kind of chopped it up many a times about possibly the potential of Arkansas hosting. I mean, what do you think that would do for the state that people don't realize that a tournament setting like this with 16 teams would do? One, for the economy of that town, but if Arkansas gets to the point to where you get a whole congregation of fans, you know how Hawg fans are, to really get behind this team and they see what this is all about. I think, and I've said this, if we get the ball rolling and can get this thing into Arkansas, there's a legit shot of you could challenge the aftershocks of being one of those premier locations. I mean, how much have you really tried to get this thing in Arkansas, and have you made any progress, and what towns have you kind of looked at possibly maybe wanting to host with you?
Little Rock wants to host it. I know UALR has shown a lot of interest in wanting to host it. TBT is a little more hesitant in terms of because we're not UALR's team of hosting it there. And what I try to tell them is like, look, as I respect every school that we have in the state, Arkansas's got the biggest fan base, and it doesn't matter what gym they're in. If people can go watch these guys that they used to watch or that their kids grew up watching or whatever it was, they're going to try to go watch the game. And, you know, hosting it in a barn hill seems like the most fun because you would fill it up. Like I know Arkansas fans will fill it up. Heck, if I wasn't coaching in this and they were hosting, I'd drive up to go watch that game. So I think, you know, we just got to keep making progress, keep trying to win, and then see who wants to put in a bid. And that's something I've talked to TBT a bunch about, of maybe just doing it in Little Rock, especially with the airport being a little bit bigger, more hotels around here, more, you know, a little more things like that that could help TBT want to say, okay, you know, let's give this a chance, because I know Wichita profits 6 figures on theirs, and they'll probably double their profits this year, especially hosting Wichita, Kansas, and Kansas State.
Yeah.
So I mean, you just hope that you can get it done, and you just hope you could bring it here one time. That would be the ultimate goal. That's what Sonny's big goal is. He wants to get it to Arkansas. Then I think a lot of people are going to want to play, and we've got to really figure out, you know, what the best roster to put together is to play.
Well, there's a guy over in the Big Three that I would love to see come over, and I know he's played with another team in TBT, but you know, I just, you know, we all us the fans of the TBT and ones who's followed it, you know, you always put your dream Arkansas matchup, and you look at the staff or the team that you could potentially have with all the available players that have went to Arkansas, and if you could get the top 10 to commit to play, you would have a very, very stacked roster that could have a potential of winning it all.
No, if all the if and what if and all that stuff happened, I don't know if it'd be as fun to us as much as it'd be to y'all, because we're the ones having to figure out who are we taking and how are we going to manage all this. But I mean, it would be a lot of fun to just see the top, you know, 8, 9, 10 guys on an Arkansas team just really going to war against other people, and you know, the us versus you mentality. That would be exciting for us. I mean, it really would. So, you know, we just keep trying to push away, break away, whatever you want to call it, and just get to that step where we can say, okay, we're going to host it in Little Rock, or we're going to host it in Fayetteville. And even we pitched Hot Springs as an idea. I mean, right by the casino, you got the lake, there's things to do there. They've got the places to stay. Like something like that would be awesome. But, you know, it's going to take time and progress. And the more people start paying attention to the tournament and more people start watching it, the better the chance it is, you know, of getting there.
We need to invite the top guys to come to a Razorback game and show them what could be the potential. I mean, take them to a Tuesday night game where there's only 8,000, 9,000 and hear them call the Hogs, and we could be like, this is what it could be, because it no matter what. I mean, I always tell this story. When Jermaine Taylor was fighting Bernard Hopkins way back, I think it was 03 or 04, he was fighting Bernard Hopkins in Las Vegas, and in the middle of the fight broke out a hog call. I mean, it just – you know, that is one of them things when you talk about something like a Roll Tide or a hog call, and it would represent Team Arkansas, there would be nothing cooler than to know that Arkansas hosts and you're playing a game and just you go on this run and the hog call. I mean, I know that would give everybody chills, because being an alumni team and playing in front of your home state, I mean, there's got to be no better feeling than that. But just knowing that full circle where you've come from and, you know, starting this till now. I mean, I know that'd be a dream come true, but you did talk about the fundraising and stuff, and let's wrap it up on, you know, how people can, you know, do this, help out. What are the ways and means that people can really help out, and what are your main needs of when it comes to fundraising for a team and travel and getting all these guys in the right spot?
We're short where we want to be financially. Last year, we got to a very comfortable level where we knew we could operate, and we did, to where, you know, we didn't lose very much money out of the organization, out of our own pockets. This year, we're a little shorter. I think the economy is just a little down for a lot of people. But, you know, we put on our social media different tiers we have. We want to fundraise. We want to help. We're very flexible with how we market. We're close, and, you know, we have a little less than a month to figure it out, and hopefully more people say, hey, you know, let me do this, let me do that. We are a 501c3. We are able to, you know, be wrote off on your taxes. So we're just hoping we can find people that have interest in donating to us, helping us. Just even every little bit will add up, and that's what we're just trying to chunk together a bunch of little bits, and hopefully that's the chunk we need to be, operating where we want to be.
Yeah, and we hope that one day that would happen where we can host, and knowing that I know that's got to be a big burden off you, because I'm sure that you're up to the last minute of, hey, how are we going to get these guys one there, but feeding them and really kind of taking them, because you want to keep guys. That's the thing. This is not just for this year. It's, hey, we want these guys to have the best experience, and if they're taken care of, you have no problem asking them back and coming back. But it's like the fundraising part of it. If let's be real about it. The guys are like, well, it's hard time. It is much rather playing in Mexico than going to Wichita and not knowing how we're going to eat and stuff. So I know that.
I mean, you don't want people paying their own money to play on a team, and that's what we're just trying to make sure everyone gets a chance to break even, that they're making connections, that they have a chance to get on TV and show what they can do, and then getting into different leagues and elevating their careers up. I mean, that's the ideal goal for us. Just trying to break even, as close to even as possible. If we have a little extra money left over, then what can we pay for that? Someone may have spent X amount on a flight. Can we help them out? That's always the goal. The big thing, and I asked on Twitter, and I try to ask on some groups. Obviously, my following isn't very big, but who can we partner with to be an alumni team with a cause? And then if we win an X amount of dollars, we put a percentage back to that foundation or that charity. And who can we partner with to really get that going? And I think that would be really incredible, because I mean, we all want to win. Everyone wants to win, but I also want to put into something that's meaningful, that can change other people's lives as well. Not just our players, our staff, and everybody, but some kids' lives, something. So if we could figure out ever at some point who we could partner with that would be willing to say, hey, we'll front X amount of dollars, and then if we win the tournament, you go there. I mean, there's teams right now in TBT with $150,000 budget.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine Floyd Mayweather's team. What kind of bankroll do you think those guys have? And so it's just trying to figure out, how can we just get to a break even, or have a little bit of money if we needed it. But I mean, it's also not something we're worried about when it comes to paying guys yet, because I mean, you got guys like Sonny who put in his own money versus has to be paid to play. So it's like, that's a great example of someone just saying, look, I just want to hoop. And that's what we want. We just want guys that want to be there. That's super important in the tournament. Guys that want to be there, guys that like each other, guys that want to play together.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you, Monty, coming up, man. Like I said, it's been an honor to get to know you and this team, and getting to follow. I followed TBT since the beginning. So it's one of them things, like you becoming a coach, yet me being a fan and being able to be a part of a team. And, I talked to your staff, and not being able to help out as much as I did in the past couple of years, being able to come to the games, just stuff with the podcast and work just hasn't really allowed me to go up to Wichita, which I really hate, because I love going to Wichita. I mean, that was just I drove up there, watched the game, and drove straight back, because I wanted, it was like almost a bucket list deal. Like, I really wanted to experience TBT in person, and it was well worth the money.
Well, I mean, hey, man, we always appreciate your help, and I got a ton of respect for you. So if you can't make it, we understand too. We know you're still supporting us. I still know I got a text message after every game coming from you, and then we'll catch up. So all the help and all of everything is just always appreciated. Like, we just want to be around genuine people, and that's the biggest thing for us. And so I appreciate all the help that you have given us so far, and I know you're going to continue helping us. And as much as I can help you, of course I would.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. And we're not done. We like you said, we'll come back on and talk about, when it gets really crunch time, and get some availability to talk about, how camp went, and really when you get a good eye on the team ram up, and we'll definitely chop it up right before the tournament.
Sure. Anytime, you know how to get a hold of me.
Yes, sir. You have a good evening.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
That was Monty Patel, head coach of Team Arkansas TBT. And again, like, if you've never experienced TBT, it's an amazing experience to be able to watch this tournament. It's a different setting. It's 5-on-5 grown men. And, a thing that really hits me is you have a lot of teams that are playing for causes. and like Monty was talking about, being able to want to play for a cause. I mean, all of y'all know how I am with the autism and stuff, and Special Olympics with my son, and Note with Sideline Cancer. The woman who founded that was, it's in honor of her husband. Sideline Cancer. It's one of the most popular teams in TBT. It was formed from a cause. Challenge ALS. Another team that there was one mental toughness, mental awareness. I mean, that has been my favorite part of watching this grow, is the amount of teams that are formed from causes to raise awareness of other, charities and stuff going on. And I think it was when Sideline Cancer either made it to the finals or close to, I want to say it was the finals or Final Four of the tournament. The team that won it, their fans donated, I want to say $25,000 or something to their foundation. I mean, they gave part of their money that they won of the million to that foundation. So, I mean, it touches lives. It really touches people especially when you're not just supporting the tournament, you're supporting causes. And that's the favorite part of this tournament and they really do. I mean, they had an autism army team. The guy who was the head coach and player, his son had autism. He was the one that run the team, and so when you see things that touch you personally, you want to tune in more to it. And that's what I love about the tournament. But we're going to take a quick commercial break. After the break, we're going to recap some off-season softball news. And then, of course, talk about the passing of Ryan Mallett and just, heartbreaking news this afternoon out of Florida. But we'll be right back after the break.
Attention DIYers and home improvement enthusiasts. Are you searching for the right tools and the supplies to tackle your next project? Look no further than Mentor's Hardware Store. With locations in Ozark, Alma, and Clarksville, our vast selection of hardware and building materials is sure to have everything you need, whether you're fixing a leaky faucet or building a new deck. Plus, our knowledgeable staff is always on hand to offer expert advice and guidance. And with our competitive prices and convenient online ordering, Mentor's Hardware Store is your one-stop shop for all your DIY needs. Visit us today and let's build something amazing together. Are you in need of legal representation? Look no further than the law offices of Robertson, Beasley, Shipley, and Robinson. As the oldest law firm in the River Valley, we have been serving our clients for over 100 years, with locations in Ozark, Fort Smith, and Springfield. Our experienced team of attorneys provide expert guidance and advocacy in a wide range of legal areas, including personal injury, family law, criminal defense, and more. Trust in our history and experience to get the results you deserve. Contact the law offices of Robertson, Beasley, Shipley, and Robinson today at 479-782-8813. That's 479-782-8813. Are you looking for a place to grab a cold drink and some delicious food? Look no further than Arkansas Brewing Company. Located at 201 South 1st Street in beautiful downtown Ozark, our establishment offers a wide selection of craft beers and tasty eats. But what sets us apart is our welcoming atmosphere and friendly staff. At Arkansas Brewing Company, you'll always feel like part of the family. So visit Destiny and Christopher Brockett and staff today and see for yourself what makes us the go-to spot for locals and visitors alike. Arkansas Brewing Company, come for the drinks and stay for the friends. Searching for premium brewery products that will take your daily routine to the next level? Look no further than Sterling Soap Company. Our handmade soaps, aftershaves, and balms are made with only the finest ingredients that give you the ultimate grooming experience. With a variety of scents to choose from, there's something for everyone. Plus, our products are crafted in small batches to ensure the highest level of quality. So why wait? Visit www.sterlingsoap.com or visit our retail store at 16 West Walnut Street in Paris, Arkansas. Shop our collection and discover the difference for yourself. Upgrade your grooming routine with Sterling Soap Company.
And I want to welcome you back to the Hawg Talk podcast. And I tell you what, nothing brings me greater joy than seeing the job that Courtney Deifel has done with that softball program. And I know the season didn't end the way that we all wanted it to, getting put out in regions and stuff. But, I sent her a message, I think it was a week after, and just to see if I could catch up. And, after the season ended, to talk about, future and what kind of roster they can look up. And I was like, what are your time off? What's the time off between the players and coming back? And she said, there's none, no time off. And, it kind of struck me as, all right, she's not playing around, they're really ready to get rolling next year. And then you start seeing the news of the portal players that they got coming in, knowing you're going to have to, replace Dels, Shanice. I mean, one of the greatest pitchers to pitch at Arkansas. You're losing some key components. And when you see the announcements that they have Morgan Linestock coming in, then you had Nia Carter, one of the top hitters in the country, come in from Iowa. I mean, all right, so you're like, man, you're really getting these players to come in. Then they get the big one, Bree Ellis out of Auburn. And what was funny was Bree was very vocal about the girls being able to do the portal and enter the portal. And we got to remember, like what really got the ball rolling was Jordy Ball out of OU, wanting to go and play at Nebraska at her home. She's won back-to-back national championships at OU, and she's done pretty much. I mean, they went 57-1. One of the top programs. I mean, they're the Alabama of softball. That's just how dominant this program is. I mean, and you just got the top coach in the softball world. And then again, Norman's 30 minutes before they play the Women's College World Series. But you're seeing players now wanting to go play home, closer to home, or play for a program that can get them to the next level. And Bree said on her interview, I believe if it was Big Trail Nation or with Coach Z and Grovey, but she wanted to go play for Coach Deifel her freshman year when they got swept. That's the effect that Coach Deifel has on these players. What we were talking about with Tal Richardson last night of the fact how Eric Musselman can potentially get any player he wants, at least listen to him in conversation and consider going to Arkansas. Coach Deifel's now done the same thing. She can legitimately go to any player and has a shot to get them to come play for her at Arkansas. And you look at the amount of transfers. There was somebody who was talking about Arkansas hasn't done anything with transfers or something. But, I mean, Danielle Gibson was a transfer. Braxton Burnside was a transfer. You look at KB Sides was a transfer. Shanice Dels was a transfer. I could go on and on about the amount of transfers. Taylor Ellsworth was a transfer. That's the big thing about Arkansas is when they come to Arkansas, they're part of Arkansas. It goes into our conversation with Monty and Team Arkansas. I mean, so much of what I've been able to witness, and I know what this tournament and having it in Arkansas could do for this state and really give the fans something to root for. And, the amount of passion that's in this tournament, because these guys are doing it for next to nothing. Even if you happen to be that team that wins it. I mean, you're getting a share at $1 million, so you're getting 80 to 90,000. That could be a once in a lifetime payment. You're not getting that. You're not promised that every year. And so with that being said, what Coach Deifel has done and not playing around, like her mission is to get to Oklahoma City. And I've said it about a lot of coaches, but she deserves it to get to Oklahoma City because she's done it the right way. She gets players to come buy into her system and her staff. And speaking of staff, the reports are, it's all but, I guess we're pretty safe to say it on the podcast, but if they end up getting DJ Gasso to come be their hitting coach and it's inked and it's done, I'm telling you, this is going to be a game changer. I mean, to get the staff, you're not only investing in the top players to come play for you. Now you're bringing in a young DJ Gasso, daughter or son of the coach at OU. But the thing is, let's be real about what the team has kind of lacked when it comes to getting to that Oklahoma City level. It's been their hitting. I still think they need another pitcher to get them to the Oklahoma City level, because I'm telling you, Coach Deifel and teams, they get a lot of flack. Dave Van Horn gets a lot of flack because he always seems to get to Omaha, but you can't ever win it. Well, Coach Deifel's made it to Super Regionals, and she got embarrassed and lost in regionals. You don't realize how hard it is to get into regionals, out of regionals into a Super Regionals, and then be the top 8 teams to play in Oklahoma City. And doing it when you have to have 2 or 3 solid pitchers, and that's one of their biggest things. They had Shanice, and you've shown times where Robin was on her game. Camenzon was on her game. McGaffin was on her game. But trying to get all 3 of those to, lock in at the same time and have a stellar staff, that's been the Achilles heel of Arkansas. Getting 2 pitchers to really come out and not have to rely on Dels or Storms or Half. That's been the MO over the past couple of years, and that's what Coach Deifel is wanting to change, is the fact you're building this monster staff. You're bringing these pitchers in. You're bringing top hitters in on top of your freshmen. And that's another thing. You got to realize half this team was freshmen last year. I mean, and girls that were on the bench were freshmen. They're only going to get better. And it's only a matter of time that they get to Oklahoma City. I could guarantee you within the next 4 years, they're getting Oklahoma City. By the time this freshman class, and if you want to count this year, that's fine. But I guarantee you that the team, that the freshman class, they're going to get to Oklahoma City. That there's so much happening, and they're building a staff. You're bringing in top tier hitting coach. You got Matt Michael, one of the best minds in softball when it comes to analytics, and watching him just do his magic on that laptop and that iPad about, the velocity and spin rates, and just really, they developed Shanice into the pitcher she is. They gave her confidence, and they gave her that drop pitch that have really developed her. She had the talent, and she's even talked about wanting to step away from the game before she even went to Arkansas. That staff they have there at Arkansas, and again, we can't say it's official because nothing's been officially announced by the university, but all arrows are pointing towards DJ coming to Arkansas. And I think that I was talking to somebody the other day. It's like, and I'd even tweeted it out, that the fact that 4 years ago, let's just move on to football, but it's exciting. It's so exciting that we're at the edge of our seats. We're paying attention to all the sports, all the athletes, whether it's track and field, whether it's volleyball, whether it's football, basketball. Arkansas fans are getting to enjoy a full year of success. I know the football team didn't have too much success last year from the previous 9 wins, but they're still relevant. They're not 2-10 anymore. They're not the laughing stock of the SEC anymore. They're a respectable program, and they're going to continue to rise. Look at the basketball program and what Coach Musselman's done. I was kind of going back and forth with some LSU people today. They were talking about the job that their AD's done. He's done an amazing job. They got 2 national championships to speak for, but so does Arkansas. Arkansas swept the indoor track and field championships with, the men and women. But you can't say, well, that's just track. National championships are national championships. That's the funniest thing when people talk about Arkansas is like, well, you can't count those. Why not? It's hard, other than football. We'll leave football out of it because that's the hardest national championship to win, in my opinion, when it comes to getting there, because you lose one game and you're pretty much fighting your way to even have a chance to get in the playoffs. Now, with this 12-team format, let's see how that works out before I go to judge and say it's a little bit easier. But with the way these super conferences are forming, it still might be just as difficult. But when you're taking athletes that have to qualify to get into a national event and then have enough team players to score enough points to win the national championship, that's very hard to do. And like I said, when we talked about with Coach Harder and when we're talking about the indoor championships, there's no break. You're not playing indoor in the fall and outdoor in the spring. You do your indoor track and field, and then you get a week off or 2 weeks off, and then you go right back into outdoor. I mean, that's just how back to back. And I know every team has to do it and yada, 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 but it's very hard. But for them to win those 2 national championships, you can't sit there and say that Hunter Yurchek, when the job he's done at AD, is not up there with the top ADs in the country. I would put him number 1. And if that's being biased or whatever, I don't think I'm being biased when I say that, just because Razorback fans, we know where Arkansas was 4 or 5 years ago. We know the Western Kentuckys, the North Texases, San Jose States, Portland State, Club Dub win against Colorado State. We know where they've been. We know the mediocre hoping to get into the NCAA tournament with the basketball team. We've seen the heartbreak with the baseball team and the pop-up. I mean, Arkansas, I've been saying it many years I've been on this podcast, that Arkansas deserves a national championship more than anybody, because just how passionate this fan base is, and it's grown. It's like Northwest Arkansas. It's grown. It's just spread out to every sport. I love it. I love being part of the fact that when we post things and share things about other sports other than football, basketball, and baseball, that people engage with it. They like it. And to see the fact that, with the recruiting class that Mike Neighbors got with Talia Scott and Jenna Lawrence, the additions that they have to this year's team on top of the staff, and having Sasha come back, that's going to be a sleeper team. Everybody's down on Mike. Everybody thinks Mike's this, Mike's that. And I will say this. I will say it on air. I mean, the expectations for this team are up there, and they didn't meet the expectations the last couple of years. So all the talk about underperforming, and if y'all want to say choke, this and that, hey, y'all are entitled to that. And there's no way to really defend that, because I followed the team for the last 5 years. I know I've seen the peaks and the valleys. So seeing how this year played out and seeing some of the games that I knew they should have won, they didn't. The Ole Miss game, the Vandy game, getting blown out by Georgia, a team that I thought they were better than. All those goes into play. But I'm just telling you, just this team is going to be a sleeper team this year. You got Talia Scott coming out of Florida in the back court with, Michaela Daniels. And I'm telling you, what better way to come in your freshman year and get to learn behind Samara and Michaela? Then just you got your depth inside. You got Saylor, Saylor coming back. Emory Ellis coming back. I mean, Jersey Wolfenbarger coming back. You got all these key players coming back, and you're adding on. And then you're bringing a girl in from Spain, Christina Sanchez. I mean, this team, Carly Keats is another one that's coming in. This next year, mark it down. I mean, it's going to be a very exciting year for all sports. Football is going to surprise you. I got them 8-9 wins. I mean, I think that's a very respectable outcome. I think that is a lot of Razorback fans would be happy with 8 to 9 wins this year. I mean, I'm not one of these ones that are saying 10, 11 wins. I just don't see it. I need to see what this defense can do. And that's what, moving forward, we're going to be able to take a breakdown of this staff and this roster and really see what they're going to do. We know how summer camp is. It's talking season, and it's just pad on pad player, Arkansas versus Arkansas. I want to see what this defense does in the first 3 games before we start talking about expectations. I mean, we could do predictions and stuff, but, like I've said before, I'll stick by it. The best case scenario, I see them winning 9 games. Where do I see them actually? I see them at 8 wins. But as me and Ty were talking about last night, that's guaranteeing you've got to win your 4 non-conference games. You got to win all 4 of your non-con games, and then you've got to win 4 of your SEC games just to get to the 8-win mark. I mean, that's tough to do when you play in the SEC West. No way you cut it, slice it, however you want to say it. I mean, it's hard. Now, you've got a coach, and you've got a coaching staff, and you've got the offense to do it. There shouldn't be any excuses why they shouldn't win 8 games this year. Whether they do it or not, it's yet to be seen. It all depends on, does KJ find a receiver that he can throw to, and how does the defense go? depth. How do they play those last 4 games? Because you got a good 4-game stretch coming up, and then you got a brutal stretch. And then, of course, you got Missouri to wrap it up. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this team plays out. We do have some real exciting news coming up. We're going to have more shows. We're going to have more days. We're going to end up doing a preview show with a writer from the opposing team. And then maybe, we'll see how time restraints and stuff work out, maybe do a post-game show. But I'm really looking forward to this new, I guess you say, new era of the Hawg Talk podcast. It's a one-man show now. Jacob decided to go and spend time on his writing career, and the best of luck to him. And I can't wait to get on here and bring the top guest, best guest, get some players in tomorrow night, or not tomorrow night, Thursday night. I got former softball star Danielle Gibson coming on. She's at Georgia now. She's playing in Athletes Unlimited. So we're going to get to be able to talk to her and just the excitement she has of being able to be one of them foundation setters, that softball program where it's at now. So, it's a very fun time to be a part of this. Keep following, liking, listening, download, share to your friends. It was funny because my sister was down in Texas and she sent me a text message saying, "Hey, this guy in Houston, he listens to your podcast." I mean, it was really cool that my sister was way down in Houston and, guy run into her. All of our sponsors, want to thank all of our sponsors we've had, throughout the years. It's going to be amazing, fun, and I can't wait to bring you the best Arkansas content. We've been able to have the blessings of Hogs Plus be able to share their content. Big Trail Nation. There's the media outlet that I'm going to collaborate with that we'll announce at a later date. But top things are coming. Best things are coming. We're going to try to do our best to eventually give you daily content. Again, time restraints and stuff like that. But for this episode of the Hawg Talk podcast, I'm Porter Hayes, and we will catch you on Thursday night at 7:00 p.m. with Danielle Gibson, former softball standout.